So the last time we caught me procrastinating, we talked a little bit about my old iPod and how different it was when trying to compare it to our standards nowadays, but also kind of a nostalgic, retrospective look back at how things used to be. And my biggest takeaway from that out of everything was just how different the camera was. It wasn't bad for the time, especially considering the price of similar devices and things like that. But after looking at that camera, I started to think about the other tech that I owned that wasn't necessarily designed to do photo and video, but still does it, just because. So then I realized about my old 3DS. The Nintendo 3DS. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, or even the DS, for playing all those games that you probably looked at as a kid, or enjoyed, something like Mario Kart, Mario Party, or even Tetris. But today, we don't want to focus on any of those. We want to take a look at something different that came bundled with the system. That would be the 3DS camera. Now, the camera actually came with a bunch of little different bells and whistles for you to play around with, and it actually included a lot of different camera features that people were already familiar with, like timers and being able to zoom in and out, and even something like a night mode. And it also had a lot of these little features that weren't exactly necessary, but they were just kind of fun to play around with for the most part. And it also shot video. The video could only be shot in 10-minute blocks, and it restricted you to low light. But the fact that you were able to do it at all is something that I would say is probably pretty cool for something that was made first as a gaming handheld. And you can see from these shots when I was a kid that I did use it a good bit, and I could get some good shots out of it. And I even took some videos of it when I was a kid of just kind of hanging around the house with my sister doing other things like that. So it'd be interesting to see what I can do with this camera. Now, with all that being said, I'd say we take this thing out in the real world and see how well it actually does at taking pictures and video. And we're going to be putting it to the ultimate test, because this time it'll be night out. So let's see how well it does. Well, it turns out my nostalgia's gotten the better of me, because these shots just do not hold up. They are dark, they are washed out, and they just aren't a great representation of what I was trying to take a picture of walking around campus. And you can see, just trying to compare it to my smartphone and even get a gauge of it, it's just really dark. Now, the controls that I showed earlier do let me play with some things, but the problem is that they just don't do a whole lot. Like, if I go into night mode, it does help, but like, at the end of the day, it is still totally washed out. The same can be said for shots that are too bright, because they just get really, really, really washed out to the point where you can't tell what I was trying to take a picture of. But if you do it right, you can get a couple of pretty decent shots considering. Especially this last one here. I thought that this was actually pretty good comparing to the phone. Now, filming on this is interesting for a couple of reasons, because we are now down to strictly normal and low light mode, which, as I've already shown, doesn't actually do us too many favors, so I'll just keep it at normal. And then we do have manual controls as well, but that's not going to do much, because you can see that the brightness is all the way up, and then contrast is really where it should be for the most part. And really, just messing with these doesn't do us anything anyway, because like it's a camera on a DS. But I will say too that the video is really, really zoomed in. And then if we switch over to that video, then you can see just how zoomed in it is. And also a little bit dark. If you give the camera a good amount of light with the selfie one though, it is not that bad. It is still low quality coming from a DS, but it's not that bad. Overall, I'd say this was a fun thing to try out. I was able to get some good shots out of this camera, but I definitely found the limitations of it rather quickly. But I think that's kind of something to be expected, because really those limitations that I hit are just representative of what this thing was made for. It wasn't made to take video or photos that were of shareable quality. It was just something to toy around with, and something that was cool, and something that could be marketed for people to want to buy the 3DS. I would never take actual shots with it, because it's not what it's designed to do. It's designed just to toy around with. And when I got this at about 11 or 12 years old, that's about exactly what I did, and it was a lot of fun. So, in that respect, it accomplished its job perfectly. So, I will give it credit for that. Thanks for watching this odd little video, and I'll see you next time. But I guess it's not the worst thing in the world for something that's a DS. It works. Hi.
You scared me.